Ahoy, quality management people. Welcome to this episode of our Quality Solutions series, Transforming Your Organization Through Closed Loop Quality Management. And I want to thank you all for joining today. There we go. Got a little click hiccup. So as always, you guys will receive a link to this recording. Also be sure to use that GoToWebinar panel to ask questions or share your thoughts along the way during the presentation. And we should have some time at the end for a little Q&A. So we'll look forward to that. My name is Angela Anderson. I'm Product Marketing Manager here with ETQ, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Tom Barlow, one of ETQ's in-house quality experts and strategic solution engineers. Tom has an amazing 20 years of experience at ETQ and many more years before that as a quality professional. And he helps quality professionals like yourself all over the world get the most out of their investment in ETQ Reliance. So glad to have Tom with us here today. How are you doing today, Tom?
I'm very well. Thank you very much.
Excellent. You ready to talk transformation today?
Let's do this.
Okay. All right. So just to kind of kick things off, thinking about transformation within your organization, there are so many labels out there that folks might call this type of activity. One company, center of excellence. There's a lot of talk around quality 4.0 and smart factory, but it's really kind of stemming from this one big idea, or if you've heard the phrase, the BHAG, one big hairy audacious goal, and that is digital transformation. And when it comes to quality, kind of going beyond just digitizing processes to using technology to connect your QMS to the broader business ecosystem and transforming that quality function into a driver for business performance and competitive advantage, and finding those ways to leverage technology to enable transformation, not only from a technical implementation standpoint, but transforming the business and using the practices of quality to drive that. So with that said, we do know quality can have that level of impact in your business, a transformational impact, because quality does touch every aspect of that product life cycle. Every step of the way, there's that opportunity to apply a quality mindset, from designing quality into the product at the outset, so building the right product right, to ensuring receipt of your high quality goods and services from suppliers, and holding those suppliers accountable. A typical manufacturing company, I found this amazing, can spend 40 to 80% of their purchasing dollars on raw materials. So supply chain and supply chain quality is such a huge, such a huge impact on business today, and so much of that, the success there can be driven through quality practices. So managing quality also during manufacturing and assembly processes, all the way to the product, making it out into the field and getting that customer, gathering that customer feedback on quality and performance, which is so critical in regulated industries, but also key input for continuous improvement, really for any industry. And a closed loop quality system has those feedback loops built in all across this life cycle. And then there's the added challenge of what a kind of enterprise grade, enterprise level QMS allows you to do, from as far as centralizing and harmonizing and scaling the system across all of your sites around the world. And then you've got, through this kind of connected ecosystem, you've got visibility into trends and systemic issues that you can address at a global level. And I've kind of purposely, in the title here, kind of crossed out digital, because it really is, going beyond just digitizing processes. That could be, going from a paper binder to a spreadsheet. That's technically kind of digitization, but the only way to really manage this this complex environment and harmonizing these global processes, automating the workflows, and having the right tools and technology in place. In other words, a purpose-built digital QMS solution. Those workflows, the workflow automations and the traceability that is required in this complex ecosystem are just not possible with paper or manual processes. And of course, you can mitigate all kinds of risk through the practice of closed loop quality management. Again, kind of going beyond that just compliance to a proactive stance on continuous improvement, and ultimately giving your organization that real competitive advantage. So far in our ETQ, we'll call it our ETQ Quality Journey series that we've been doing over the last few months, we've covered essential information for first-time QMS. There we go. First-time QMS software buyers, so including the importance of laying that solid foundation for your QMS and adopting what ETQ has to offer as far as out-of-box core applications like dot control, training management, audits, corrective action. Then we turned our attention to accelerating your journey and connecting those quality processes with data and workflows of other teams and enterprise systems. Then we ventured into the expand phase and talked about extending your QMS to additional stakeholders, including folks outside your organization, like your suppliers. So kind of back to the supplier quality, supplier relationship management, or customers. And then today we're going to explore, of course, the transform phase. And looking at this journey kind of holistically, you really can see how your QMS can become a hub for connecting all of these systems across your organization, and again, set you up for creating that, being able to focus on that competitive advantage. Okay, so with all of that set up out of the way, I am going to turn it over to Tom. He's going to orient you a bit to the Reliance platform and dive into some aspects of the system that are going to allow you to realize and I'll call it a near infinite amount of transformation for your organization. So he's going to lay out the building blocks for how that becomes possible on the Reliance platform. So with that,
Do you want to just give me do you want to just give me keyboard and mouse from your side, and I can
oh,
do
you want
that?
to give that a
Yeah,
shot? All right,
let's give that. Sure, let's give that a shot. And
all
the other
right.
thing, if you don't mind, I jump in for a second. The transform phase that we're going to describe and discuss today is really reaping the benefits of having established a strong foundation with the other previous three phases. So the ignite, the help me with it, expand.
Yes, yes.
uh,
Ignite,
uh,
accelerate, and
Accelerate, expand, and
yes,
transform. So
yes.
this series is really designed to sort of provide a guide to some extent and describe the benefits of building a strong quality foundation. And different organizations are, even whether they've implemented a tool or not, are at different phases of that. A tool like ours, which is a business process automation platform with integration capabilities, is going to lend itself to that. It makes it much easier to do. It's still not easy to do. I mean, it takes a lot of work, and it takes an organization and management support and all the other things to make it happen. But we have the experience, and we have some case studies that we'll be talking about a little bit later, where we can discuss how some of our customers have really reaped the benefits of the transformation.
Yeah. And it is a journey. Even though we map out a maturity journey, the lines between the phases are fuzzy. It depends on an individual organization as to how they want to progress. So cool. Well, thank you, Tom. Let's see, you got your mouse control there. Awesome.
Let's see if I can move it forward. Here we go. Look at that. Excellent. Cool. So for those of you that have not heard of ETQ, or maybe hadn't been familiar with our ETQ Reliance platform, I have a few slides to just orient you to it. I already mentioned the fact that it's a web-based, workflow-based business process automation platform that's designed to automate compliance management systems. Quality management is just one of the areas that we can focus on. We have been doing this for over 30 years, and we have 42 pre-configured applications that are built on best practices or based on best practices that you can choose to start with immediately with minimal effort. However, it's on an agile platform that's highly configurable, and it's designed so that your non-technical administrators can configure the system to meet your own business process requirements. Not only can you use the drag and drop designer tool to configure the pre-configured apps that we have. In fact, we use our own configuration tool to build those applications based on our best practices documented specs for the system. So not only can you use it to configure existing applications to adapt it to your own business process requirements, but you can also build new applications on the platform using that same designer tool. So the thing is, the system itself is an automation platform first. And that's really what's going to help you achieve that transformation, because there's literally no limit as to what you can implement. And since it's hosted in the cloud native SaaS environment, it makes it extremely easy to access it. We do all the management side from an IT perspective, and you can even extend the use of the system to those outside your organization without security or firewall concerns. So that's really a intro to what the platform is. The way we package our system is that we have these core applications on the platform that are usually the starting point. So typically, if you're going to do the Ignite process or Ignite step of the journey, these applications would be the ones you typically would expect. Core applications like doc control and training and audits and corrective action and change management, those are core processes that establish the fundamental compliance management system. And then, as I mentioned, the platform has all these capabilities that are extensible across all the other applications. So we have these optional application sets that you can also choose to implement either initially or as you go through the quality journey a little later on in the process to give you exactly what you need and nothing more. So it makes it, achievable and easier to start smaller depending on the size of your organization. You can start with a small implementation, go through some of the phases of the journey that we were discussing just a few minutes ago, establish the processes in a kind of a firm, strong way, and then build on it from there. So this is designed to allow you to grow as you go through your quality journey. I guess that's what I was trying to say. The system itself has these 6 platform genetics. They're really differentiators between our system and many other tools that we've seen, because it allows you to achieve the global enterprise level implementation level of our system without customization. So let's talk about the first one for a moment. Adaptability. Configurability. I already mentioned the fact that our system can be configured, but I'd like to draw a distinction between a customization, which is what most other systems require, and a configuration. A customization means that you have to have the vendor or a value-added reseller do a 1.5 year long plus project to develop or modify their tool. They're developing the processes and customizing their system, which means that they're modifying the core system. And when they do that, they actually break it. So it's not standard anymore. So if you want to install an update or upgrade of the system, it would be very difficult to do that because it would overwrite the customizations. So what often happens is you have to re-engage with the vendor or value-added reseller to re-customize the new version. And what we've seen in many cases with other types of tools that require customization is that the service provider becomes a piece of furniture at the customer. When I say that, I mean they're almost permanently there. Other people that work in the company think they're employees. They're there that much. So with our system, our system is designed for configuration so that not only do you not need us to do ongoing configurations and implementations of additional processes on the platform, you don't even necessarily need your own IT department, because the business users, and the system has been designed this way since 1995 when our first tool came out of the box pre-configured apps to use, but also configurable so that your non-technical administrator can configure it without programming. So that's a very key differentiator, and that allows you to achieve transformation much faster because of the fact that you don't have to have all these constraints on making these changes. It's not a big project. There is going to be a change process in place, especially if you have a global implementation, but you can do it yourselves without having to depend on us, the vendor, or a value-added reseller. In addition, and we'll discuss this in a few minutes, connectivity between processes is extremely important. An issue gets identified. Angela mentioned the concept of closed loop, which is really right in the title of this discussion anyway. So closed loop means that everything has an issue that's launched to other or linked into other things throughout the QMS. And I have a process overview to describe that.
No
In
loose
addition,
ends.
no loose ends, no loose ends. Yeah. In addition, not only can the applications within our platform talk to each other, but we can also integrate with practically any other systems that you have in place. And I used systems purposely because you have different types of systems like ERP systems and PLM systems and CRM tools. I can't think of any other acronyms off the top of my head, Angela, but other tools that have other information that you continue to use for those purposes, right? Because our system is not an ERP tool. You have ERP tools in place, but we would leverage that information in the tool. We would either synchronize with it, things like suppliers and customers and products and things like that, or we can trigger things back and forth from an ERP system into our system and then vice versa. And we'll see this in the diagram as well. But when I say systems, because some customers, especially the larger customers, might have multiple solutions for the same thing because different divisions do things differently. You might have different ERP systems or different instances of the same ERP system. So we can integrate with that and become a single source of the truth. We have customers that literally had multiple systems and they had no way of ever knowing what was going on with a particular supplier because they would have an issue over here and then someone in a new division starts to do business with that supplier, not realizing that they're walking themselves into a web of, supply chain risk because of the fact that they're having an issue with this other division. So now what they're able to do through integration is have a single source of the truth. Everybody across the globe that deals with that one supplier knows exactly what's going on, and they can rate the supplier on an ongoing basis. So integration is really part of the ultimate transformation. And I know that we discussed integration in previous phases too, but there's integration, which is just kind of dabbling in it, and then there's real integration to achieve full automation and business intelligence and artificial intelligence that's providing feedback loops from one place to another to ensure that everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, other areas of the organization that are going through their own digital transformation, that kind of that ability to connect with whatever's happening in another area of the business and kind of meeting them where they're at from a systems perspective. Reliance has that flexibility.
Exactly, and Angela, that's a great segue because the next genetic is called contextual awareness. This allows our system to be implemented at a global level with what we call harmonization. So if you think about a large organization, there's a structure, there's a hierarchy involved in defining that structure of the organization. Our core platform has the ability for you to define your own organizational structure, different like the corporate entity and then business units under that, and then continents and then countries and then even physical facilities. There's no limit to the number or level of branches that you can have on the hierarchy. And then once you set that hierarchy up, whenever someone logs into the system knows where they're from, it knows what they can see, what they can do, and which processes they have to follow. So what harmonization allows you to do is, because you have a global system that everyone has access to from anywhere in the world, which we also support multiple languages, by the way, so that even allows other users to access it that don't speak English as a primary language. But it allows them all to just see their little part of the puzzle because it's dynamically filtering information. The processes may be slightly different, but there may be common fields on the form that everyone uses across the globe. So harmonization, as opposed to standardization, harmonization means you share common elements where it makes sense so that everyone's using the same keywords in the same fields for the same things so that you can do the global reporting and analytics and alerts that might occur when you start to develop a possible trend. You don't have to manipulate data that comes from different places for management reporting purposes because the system is validating the entry of the data and it's in the format that you want. So we often recommend that our customers configure our system with the KPIs or the outputs in mind to ensure that they capture the right information. So there's the technology of our platform that allows for that extensive use across the globe without forcing standardization. So standardization, and you guys on this call might be kind of nodding your heads. It often happens when I discuss this in demonstrations. Standardization means the tool that you're implementing doesn't have the ability to support nuances or significant differences across the globe in the way something gets implemented. Everyone is forced to do it the same way. And what happens as a result of everyone being forced to do it the same way? Number one, you end up with overcomplicated forms that are unwieldy, very difficult to use, because you capture everyone's fields on the form, regardless of what the situation, and then the forms are confusing, and the workflows or the processes, if those systems even have workflow, are confusing. The second option is you go the opposite way, and it's oversimplified, and you dumb it down to the point that you're not capturing any real meaningful data for each group. You may capture some high-level trends across the globe, but you're not going to capture everything. And then the third option is everyone wants to do it their way, so you end up with separate implementations of the same system across the organization. So you might have, we've seen customers that have other tools besides ours that we've replaced over the years, where they might have a half a dozen or a dozen different implementations of the same system with slightly different configurations or customizations, excuse me, with slightly different customizations. And even if those tools were configurable, they still couldn't handle the variability and the harmonization concept. But then what happens is you have six, let's say six hypothetically, six different systems that you have to manage, that you have to upgrade, that you have to maintain. And then when it comes to global roll-up reporting, you can't because it's in silos. So what ETQ Reliance allows you to do, and this contextual awareness allows you to do, is have those common elements so that you can have shared sections of the form or shared fields, and then have individual sections that also may be based on location or even based on a situation. When a user starts to populate a field on a form, our form could dynamically add new fields or change to different sections based on the situation to guide you in a way, almost like a wizard, to capture the information that you want to. And that's really part of transformation as well. And that is not just sitting there with the same stuff all the time. I already alluded to this concept of what's called external collaboration. The contextual awareness functionality lends itself to allowing you to extend the use of the system to users that are outside the system. In other words, suppliers or contractors or others that are not part of your organization. Because it's hosted in the cloud, there's no security or firewall concerns. The fact that the security and the filtering capability is built into our system would allow you to extend things right to your supplier. You can assign things to them, scars or other types of things, supplier corrective actions or reviews of anything, any process that you want to incorporate them in, or they can have visibility into their current rating for you, with you and whatnot. So the idea is that you can extend it out of your own four walls into your external users. And then in addition, we have the ability to use the system anywhere. So any place that you want, mobile devices, online, offline, the ability to use it without constraint. So that's the genetics, and we really appreciate the the few minutes and opportunity to describe those things, because these really are differentiators between ourselves and others. We not just receive great information from our customers and have not only encountered challenges that we faced when implementing in larger implementations, but we've actually acted on it and we've incorporated it into our system. So, Angela, how big is your imagination?
After everything I just heard you say, I feel like my imagination is pretty big. Those are some pretty powerful building blocks to, to build the system that will carry you through all the phases of a digital transformation. And it makes me think about. I lost my train of thought, but I'm just so overwhelmed with my imagination at this point. No, it's it's just this idea of having that flexibility to um, you know start with the end in mind. Isn't that Stephen Covey? I think he says that.
Yep.
This gives you the ability to to have that vision and a path and the technology to get there.
Yeah, and that's in alignment with the example I gave about the KPIs informing the way you configure the system. So what are the outputs you're looking for? So that's the end. And then you would configure the system. That's all the details, but it's going to inform what has to be done so that you are going to be in line. You know where you're going, so you're not going to go in the wrong direction. If you have a vision of what you want to do, and we see with our customers that I've had the privilege and the pleasure of working with a lot of our customers, big and small, over the years. And I can recall some initial on-site meetings where I've had dozens of people on site, doing a demo and all these detailed requirements and things like that. But it's the ones that I noticed had the vision for what they wanted it to be in 10 or 5 or 10 years are the ones that have been most successful, because they knew what they wanted to do and they realized that they had to go through a bunch of different things, the journey that we just discussed, the different phases of the journey, but they always knew where they were going. So they always were on track, or at least close to being on track. And if they got off track, they would be able to get back on track. And they always, the most successful customers that I've seen have a steering committee where they get together on a pretty regular basis, once a month or whatever, and whether they're working on an existing implementation of a phase. And what I mean when I say that, because we have 42 applications possible on the platform, you never are going to flip a switch and implement everything at one time. You're going to start with that journey and do a couple at a time. And also, because the implementation and the configuration works the same for every single application, we typically get involved in the first one, maybe two phases of the implementation to provide you kind of a white glove service to help you do it, the methodology, do scoping, and actually do the configuration changes to meet your requirements. But because you're able to do it yourselves, and we actually have this online learning management tool called ETQ Academy, which is a very powerful tool, by the time we finish the first, maybe the second phase of the project, you have the skill set as a team of administrators in our system to be able to do it without us. So you're not beholden to us, and that's very different than most organizations because they want to really secure that revenue as a service provider. But our goal is to get you to use our system and be self-sufficient as much as possible. So your imagination can really drive what happens with that implementation, and you'll realize we have customers that have millions and millions and millions of dollars of return on investment and savings that they've achieved because of implementing a system like this with full automation and integration.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the
Yeah.
hallmark, shall we?
Yeah, so that was a nice, what you were just talking about was kind of a nice segue into this. We thought it might be helpful to kind of think through the qualities, I guess good word to use, of kind of moving through this type of process within your organization. I mean, you could kind of look at this through many lenses, and have many definitely, ask 10 people, they might all have 10 different ideas on what it means to transform an organization, or what's required of an organization to have a successful project. So we picked these three. We thought it might be helpful to kind of walk through some discussion as it relates to a culture of quality, through an integration strategy, which Tom has talked quite a bit about already, and the notion of decision velocity. And I think that really points to that broader, we talked in the beginning about going beyond compliance, going beyond just kind of digitizing a process, and having, these connected processes really start to drive decisions and the direction of your organization. So with that, let's take a look at culture of quality. Tom, how do you?
This is my
Are
favorite
you?
part. This is my
Yeah.
favorite part right here. You ready?
Okay. Yeah. Tom
Hold on.
likes the animation. Yeah.
Whoa.
Okay. Okay.
Anyway, go ahead.
Wow, Tom.
I think I need a hobby.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway,
So anyway, so Tom, how would you define a culture of quality? What is culture of quality to you? If you just had like a one-liner, what's your favorite that you've heard?
yeah, I mean,
Uh,
I already kind of mentioned this when it comes to the transformation because it really has to do with management support. You know,
yeah.
you just can't do it in a vacuum. You
Yeah.
know, there was a day when I first got involved in ISO, and I don't want to talk about how long ago that was, but there was a time when it was a quality project. When ISO, the implementation of a quality management system was just a quality project, and it was seen that way by management, upper management. So it warms my heart to see that that's changed in a huge way. And when you have the proper management commitment, um, you're going to have a culture of quality, right? And we have one of the use cases we're going to talk about talks about they learned how to speak the language of their management, and that is revenue, right? They want to know, is this going to get us more revenue? Is this going to be reducing cost of poor quality? Is this going to be saving time with efficiencies, which is going to have an exponential positive effect on reducing the amount of time it's taking us to do things and making the same mistakes over and over instead of automating processes through this transformation? And then instead of spending time putting out fires every single day, which is what a lot of people that we talk to go through before they implement our system. So you're going from, paddling water, treading water and keeping your head above water, to spending that time that you can realize, the savings in time that you realize through transformation, and then you can start making better business decisions faster and achieve continuous improvement. So that's where the real, the transformation really comes, is the actual streamlining of processes, the streamlining of your system, the real savings for real return on investment, like hard ROI, actual costs, reducing scrap, reducing all kinds of other things. It can be huge, and it can be millions and millions of dollars, literally.
Yeah, and that is, one of the starting points and conversations with organizations who come to us is, where is quality in your corporate objectives? Is it represented? Because that is such a key indicator of, the how we need to approach the project, and arm the quality champion with the tools to, like you said, Tom, speak that language of the business, and present the business case on potential return on investment and time to value, and those types of things. So just a little plug there for for our team. They can, if you're not already working with ETQ, that's something we can provide and give you guidance on making the case. And definitely, the discipline and communication, I think, is a really key aspect of this, because it is a journey, it's a daily practice, and it's like you can't let up, you can't get complacent and let up on the gas. Quality is an everyday, every minute thing. So having that top-down management support, I think helps drive that and helps keep that commitment. Tom's
Okay,
nodding. You agree?
good.
All right, cool. So moving along then to integration strategy. The idea I like here is, and I think you've kind of, without saying this specifically, Tom, but using, and I like this word catalyst, using Reliance as a catalyst for the whole movement, you could say. And kind of forcing the exercise to examine your processes. It's like you said, if you got to, there's a lot of decisions that need to be made on not only putting a process into a digital format, but the standardization versus harmonization, and where those lines are, and making those decisions about how you're going to implement a process depending on the context.
Well, what's interesting on the slide, remember where it said digitization and you had it crossed out intentionally?
Mm-hmm.
The first bullet point is exactly what I was thinking of, because digitization has almost become a buzzword.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to digitize. Well, digitization is just one step. It gives you good reporting and whatnot, but with workflow and with the configuration capability, we can achieve automation. And automation is a huge part of transformation, because you're going to save tremendous amounts of time and resources in making sure processes take place, and you're going to be able to stop problems faster before the bleeding gets worse, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. And like you were talking about before with from the integrations with other systems, Reliance really kind of becomes a hub between these different systems. Everything that anything that is outside the norm, a non-conformance or a quality event or a safety event, that's triggered out of any area of the business, that's where Reliance comes in to address those issues, and no matter where it's coming from, address those issues appropriately, and have that closed loop environment to resolve, not only resolve, but continuous improvement. We kind of keep coming back to that, but it's what it's all about, is getting to that proactive stance.
Absolutely. So we'll move on to the next slide, perhaps.
Oh, yes. Time check, huh? Okay.
Good.
All right. So yeah, decision velocity. Uh, wow. So I liked what you said earlier, Tom, about the data collection, and I think that's the foundation of this. It's like, and I've got here, struggle for clean data is real. It really is real. I mean, I hate to think about, the time and sweat and tears that people spend on trying to cleanse data for, come reporting time, um, and trying to do that in a manual way. If you're collecting clean data at the outset, the reporting it breathes new life into your organization.
We may be touching on this when we get to the use cases, but we've had customers tell us that before they implemented our system, they didn't even, when asked the question, how do you improve on quality? They said, we don't even know where to start because we don't have the information that we need. We are, we're trying to maintain compliance with the standards. We have a, system in place, but somewhat's manual, somewhat's broken up into other things. So they're not, really benefiting from the transformation phase like we're describing here because of the fact that they're still trying to even understand. We're even talking way before the transformation phase, because they don't have the metrics to make decisions to understand what their problems are and improve those problems, because it's so manual to pull the information together because they have all these different systems. Or we have customers that still have stuff on SharePoint. Their corrective action forms are up on SharePoint. So yeah, they deal with them on a one-on-one basis, but they have no visibility into the overall status of things and the trends that are developing across the organization. So like you said, Angela, you brought up what I mentioned earlier, which is validating the input of the data to make sure you have the right fields. Some are required fields, some have limited options available. Um, some business rules may be even defined so people can't accidentally enter stuff that doesn't make sense at all. But it's validating it on input, so therefore, that there's no time involved in doing analytics. It just happens automatically.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a really simple, kind of powerful place to start is just having a clean Pareto chart on non-conformance categories, and get the early wins, and that's going to build the momentum behind,
Yep,
every other project that comes along.
absolutely.
All right.
All
This
right.
is my favorite part.
Yeah,
I
but
love
just
seeing
because of timeliness, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I will certainly tell the story. This is really what we call the connected quality story. We're not just connecting within our own system, but also with external systems. So part of it is going to be things like your plant floor operations. We're now a subsidiary of Hexagon. They're a metrology company that measures. They have measuring devices and equipment that are automatically capturing information, measuring things, doing inspections. But there are many other tools out there that do this as well. And our integration capability is open enough that we can integrate with any other system that you might have in place. And that being said, when this automated system generates a nonconformance or identifies an out of spec, excuse me, let me clarify that, they're good at identifying an issue. So they know that there's an out of spec situation, but what do you do with it now? So ETQ Reliance and the compliance management closed loop system knows exactly what to do with it. And there would be a real-time integration that would trigger a nonconformance report. From there may be a disposition decision. So this is another part of the transformation because we're integrating with things like your ERP again to disposition it. You might move the physical materials in the system and say, okay, it's in the MRV location or it's in this location. So instead of depending on a person to go do that, right, which is inefficient, it takes time, it may or may not get done in a timely manner, this automation will trigger it within seconds. So if there's a product nonconformance, A, the quality system knows about it. B, the workflow assigns the disposition decision to the right people using standard workflow, assignment emails. It shows up on their homepage as an assignment. Escalation reminds them of the due date that's approaching and tells their manager if they don't do it in a timely manner. So that's all going to happen really quickly. But then based on the disposition decision, that decision, which was made by the quality team, can now be pushed back into the ERP system. And that's just one example. Quality events is another application where you can have a consistent way of evaluating issues, and we'll get more to this in a minute, and you'll understand that when we have there's other stuff that's going to show up over here that will allow this to make much more sense to you. But part of the quality event is, do we really want to do a corrective action, or do we need to do a corrective action? All issues are not created equal, right? So therefore, once again, using an intelligent approach with all the right information, do we need to do a full corrective action for every issue that we have? We would argue that you don't. And in fact, if you don't, and especially if you document why, so you have objective evidence as to someone making that decision and documenting why you made that decision, you don't have to feel obligated to do a full corrective action. You can
Stop
simply
the
close.
cap of madness.
Stop the cap of madness. It's crazy. So, but then what you have is a place where you can track and trend and report on all of your issues from any different sources. So instead of having a separate list of nonconformance reports and a separate list of customer complaints and a separate list of audit findings, the quality events application gives you a single place to do that. So you can do trend analysis, tracking, and some of that automation could come in where you have the alerts tool that triggers alerts that says, hey, we're not having a problem in just this one location, but because of harmonization, we have 20 locations that are tracking against the same kind of an issue, and we seem to have a developing trend within a certain time frame. That could trigger a quality event, which literally, or excuse me, that list of quality events that identify that trend could trigger an alert, and that alert could either notify people, or maybe because of that alert, you have to do a corrective action all the time against that particular issue, and our system can automate that too. Corrective action, pretty straightforward. It's common for anyone on this call probably knows what a corrective action is and what it looks like. We have the ability to do action planning and use workflow to delegate those actions to different people to make sure they get done. And the closed loop comes in where you're linking to the actual documents that you modify or the training that you do over in our system or anywhere else. So you have full traceability between the initial issue with a link to the quality event and all the steps that went through, which then links into the corrective action, which then links to the individual actions, and there could be multiple, 5, 10, whatever actions, and those actions would have a link to the objective evidence of what was actually done. So it's the outputs that are important to manage. And the whole idea is to make sure that your employees are up to date on what's happening. They're qualified to carry out their tasks, and they're informed of changes. Our system makes it extremely easy to do that, and the training management app can do that automatically. We also have, of course, change management, which could integrate with the manufacturing execution system for things like inspection plans and control plans and whatnot. We also have other types of records like failure mode and effects analysis and PPAPs that could be stored in the system that could also be updated as a result of that, which could link into a PLM system. So you have your BOM, for example, in a different system, but we can leverage that. So if there's an issue with a certain product in the nonconformance process, let's say, maybe that product is related to other products in the BOM, and because you integrated with PLM, you can look at other products too, or other components that might be affected by that as well. So the whole idea here is that there's a completely closed loop system that's been set up. So very quickly, Angela, I'm just going to mention the other two things. So far we discussed a nonconformance report that was generated from integration with an external tool. Now, I want to be clear that you don't have to have integration with an external tool to use our nonconformance process. A user could simply come into our system and launch a nonconformance, which could then look up your list of suppliers and customers and products through integration from your ERP system. So it still semi-automates it. So this is what we're painting here is really a best situation use case. So sort of the, can you predict the future sort of thing? How big is your imagination? So we're helping you steer your imagination. In addition, very similarly, you might be using CRM systems like Salesforce or others where your customer service folks are capturing customer issues. It's not a nonconformance, but it still is an issue and it still has to be tracked accordingly. So we could, through an integration, trigger a customer feedback record that could then launch a nonconformance or a quality event. Similarly, we have a very robust audits management application to plan, schedule, and conduct audits. And this is where the mobility part might kick in. But once you identify an issue, an audit finding, you could then launch a quality event. We already described how this works. So the thing is, it's the same response type process, regardless of the source. So our system allows you to funnel it through a consistent mechanism for responding to ensure that it's all done the same way, and also to ensure that you have global reporting capabilities without having to do anything manually to make that happen. So that's the story, Angela.
Whew.
I'm going to pass it over to you.
All right. Thanks so much, Tom, for taking us on that tour. All right, so keeping an eye on the time here. I'm gonna just move somewhat quickly through a handful of customer case studies, and I'll provide a link at the end where you can come to our website and check out further detail. I know we've got some of these. We have other associated webinars and case study data sheets as well. So just to give you a flavor of some of these things we've been talking about today in the real world. So we talked a lot about harmonizing systems, consolidating systems, and our customer Kimberly Clark did just that in a big way. They literally had over 600 different quality systems, ranging from spreadsheets on SharePoint to kind of single point solutions to homegrown solutions across all of their, they've got 200 distribution centers, 82 plants. And I will mention, astoundingly, 25% of the world's population uses Kimberly Clark products. If you're not familiar, they are, I forgot the little introduction for them, but they are a global consumer products company. So yeah, they were able to consolidate over time, through their transformation, consolidate all of these tools into one instance of ETQ Reliance. So it's just an amazing commitment to that quality journey. They've seen 80% improvement in new product introduction cycle time. So that's kind of another one of those, the language of business. How what improvements are we going to see? Accelerating quality products to market, getting to that revenue quicker, and so many efficiencies along the way that drop right to the bottom line for these guys. So an amazing success case with Kimberly Clark. Next story is Train. These guys have done incredible work. So they're a global organization as well, primarily known for their environmental systems, so HVAC systems. And they, we've got these phrases here: think big, start small, scale fast. And they absolutely live this every day with their quality program. And they did think big in the beginning, and they started small because they had a lot of issues to tackle with disparate systems, with not understanding end to end the definition of a process. Everyone kind of knew their little piece of it, but nobody in the organization really knew had that overarching view of how a process gets done end to end. So with that comes like so much inefficiency and probably duplication of work, and just no visibility to what's really going on in the business. So they did have to start, begin at the beginning, put it all out on the table, and kind of rebuild their processes. And then ultimately today, they've kind of reached a point where their cost recovery mechanism for suppliers, non-conforming materials from suppliers, they have it integrated in such a way, it's a part of their supplier agreement. It is embedded within their, it's embedded within Reliance, connected with their ERP. So when when there's a non-conforming material report that hits the system, they are able to, essentially immediately, like with the click of the button, process the debit. So like they went from, basically, not really even getting a response on a CAPA or this non-conforming material process, either not getting a response from the supplier or taking months and months to resolve these things, to just like a matter of days to resolve these issues. So huge contribution to their bottom line in the millions of dollars. And they really, we talked earlier about using Reliance as a hub, and a data, well, Train calls it a data superhighway, and they have really taken their analytics to the next level. using Reliance. All right, so moving on, we've got Wabtec as well, making a lot of strides with their supplier relationships. So Wabtec does basically anything to do with trains and train engines. And they used Reliance to discover issues in their quality control process and get a handle on that. By all the things we've been talking about today, the visibility into the defects and types of defects dramatically increased, which gave them, the information to take action. And then automating these workflows like we've been talking about today, and alerting the right people to take action at the right time in the process, keeping the process moving. They've reduced the non-conforming material cycle time by 30%. So it's a very similar story to train. Cost of quality improvement by 15%. I mean, it adds up to millions of dollars over the years. So success story there. And then the other one I wanted to share with you guys is Celestica. They are a contract electronics manufacturer. They've got 25,000 employees across 14 countries. So, they were faced again with this, how do we harmonize and kind of scale across a global organization? And they've done some really interesting things with, connecting with their human resources system and through their ERP, and, setting up a system where, only a trained worker can badge into a workstation. So connecting even, well beyond, within the product life cycle, we think about kind of taking it to the next level in manufacturing and assembly, being able to control through quality people's, access to certain equipment, and kind of ensuring that, a level of safety and quality at that level. All right, so hopefully those are sparking some imagination for everyone. And then the last area of innovation, there's so much happening at this end of the market these days, this idea of connected frontline workforce. And kind of coming back to our 3 hallmarks that we talked about earlier, is culture of quality, integration strategy, and decision velocity. These, looking at it through these lenses, we can really, oops, there we go. When it comes to culture of quality, we know frontline workers, I mean, they see opportunities every day. They're, obviously on the front lines, and there's ways that, they see that we can, an organization can reduce risk and improve quality. So having, the system in place to engage and empower frontline workers to be a part of the process, and have their inputs, collected and tracked and acted upon, that really contributes to, the culture of quality aspect, where, everyone in the organization is participating in the process. From an integration standpoint, it's again coming back to this, breaking down silos, not only across, perhaps product design or like R&D and, field support, but also the quality assurance, quality control silos that exist in many organizations. So being able to bring in, as Tom was saying, Reliance can ingest, inputs and reports, quality events, safety events from basically any source. So, the shop floor is just one more source to bring in that data. And as he discussed, tracking and trending that information and taking action on it. And then, obviously feeding, that data feeds that decision velocity. The more information you have, the more, accurate and timely information you have, you're able to make, the right decision to go in the right direction. And having those processes, bringing a shop floor team into these processes, you have the opportunity to put those decision points closer to where those issues are happening. So things get resolved more quickly, those insights from the shop floor make their way across the value chain, just supporting that overall continuous improvement. Anything to, oh, and then the last point here before I hand it to you, Tom, is, yeah, I really think this this way of thinking about extending your quality system into, connected frontline systems like the things that Hexagon offers, like QDOS, or other companies like Augmenteer, who do connected work, AI-based connected worker solutions that also bring in skilling and reskilling and ensuring the right training is happening in the right modality. It all contributes to this this robust line of defense to ultimately stop quality issues from reaching the customer, and avoiding those most expensive problems to address. Tom, any comment on our customer stories here?
I think we're good. I think you've done a great job of highlighting it. The frontline worker is really the next frontier. Literally,
Yeah.
we're not just talking about mobile devices. We're talking about like wearable technology.
Yeah.
So that's coming, coming soon, and we're working on that right now. So yeah, I just want to be mindful of time. I think we have to move on a
Oh
couple
yes,
slides.
can we like speed through the last 3 minutes? All right, so just quickly to say, no matter where you are in your journey, we'd love to help. We're here to help and help you work through that business case, mapping out, the ROI case, your deployment strategy, and then all the support you would need to implement and beyond. And you're in good company. Obviously, you saw a few stories here, but companies of all shapes and sizes choose ETQ. We have 30 years of experience, building up our knowledge and leveraging what we learn from customers to put it into our out-of-box best practices, and you reap the benefit of all of that experience. All right. We have more in the series from our quality solution series, this out on our website, so you can take a look there and catch up on the content. And at this point, I think we're ready for Q&A. Just a quick note to say, mark your calendar for July. We've got another webinar coming up on supply chain quality. And please reach out anytime, etq.com, click on that request a demo button in the upper right corner, and we'll put you in touch with a quality expert. So with that, do we have any questions, or Tom, any closing thoughts you want to leave the folks with today?
Well, I just, thank you for joining us today. And I just wanted to mention that we have been recording all these. So the previous slide where Angela showed all the series and things, we have a whole library of these things. So if you're so compelled, you can almost serial watch us, just like Breaking Bad, if you want to.
Get the popcorn and just
Sure.
got the holiday weekend coming up, so you can binge watch ETQ Quality Solution Series.
That's true.
Oh. Okay, well, thank you all again for joining today, and we'll see you in July.
Have a nice day, Angela. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.